Welcome everybody to the Winning Online Podcast. I am co-host Paul Slack, coming to you live from the Geek House in Dallas, Texas. And I have Ray Larson here with me from the frozen tundra of St. Paul, Minnesota. Ray, why don't you let everybody know what we have in store for them today?
Well, Paul, last week we told the audience that we were going to talk about putting your marketing on a quota. And I know that this is a concept that's near and dear to your heart. For as long as I've known you, you have always stressed marketing, budgets, accountability, numbers, and I'm just curious if maybe you could expound upon this whole idea of putting your marketing on a quota.
You bet, Ray, and I think it's really an important topic for anybody out there listening to really understand when they invest in time or energy, or maybe they bring a consultant into marketing, that you absolutely can measure the results that you're generating, and you can put internet marketing on a quota. I got this whole concept really from my upbringing in the world of business. You know, I've been in internet marketing for a long time, but prior to that, Ray, I was a sales rep, and you know, I was accountable to achieving my quota. And when I launched my first internet marketing business back in 2000, I wanted to make sure that we were accountable to our clients in a way that was measurable, so that both sides of the table knew exactly whether or not we were moving in the right direction. And so it's something, as you mentioned, that is near and dear to my heart. I've been working on perfecting how do you measure success in internet marketing for 14 or 15 years now. And there's really a couple of key ingredients. One is what I call the macro objective, which is is the business trying to go. So if you want to put internet marketing on a quota, you need to figure out, number one, where are you trying to go as a business? So what is your business going to look like 12 months from now? Like by $1 million, I'm just making that number up, but is that a goal that you're trying to achieve? So you need to understand that. That would be a macro goal that you would then ask yourself the question, well, where does the internet play into that? If my goal is to grow by $1 million in new business, do I expect that the web's going to produce 1% of that, 10% of that, or what? And so that would be an example of a macro goal. And then you need to come up with micro goals, which would be key performance indicators that kind of show you along the way whether or not you're heading in the right direction. Because sometimes it's not always making your cash register ring that's going to show you whether or not you're winning or losing.
So you've talked about macro objectives and micro objectives. Can you tie those into key performance indicators and metrics? What's the difference between the two?
Okay, great question, Ray. So I'm going to do a quick analogy. Let's pretend like we're trying to get from Portland, Oregon on one side of the country all the way over to New York City on the other side of the country. Well, the macro objective would be getting to see whether or not you've gotten there. Are you actually in Manhattan? Are you in New York City? Can you see the Statue of Liberty out there? That's a macro objective. The micro objectives would be understanding the highways that you're going to take and the states that you're going to pass through to get from Portland, Oregon to New York. And so if you are in Texas, you're probably have taken a wrong turn somewhere, and that's a key performance indicator that's showing you need to make a course correction. But if you're traveling along and you're in the state of Missouri or you're going through Colorado, you're probably moving in the right direction, and those would be examples of key performance indicators.
There's a term that you and I love, and because it's something that you and I both love, and that's winning. So does winning look different from month 1 to month 12? And what do micro and macro conversions tell you about winning over the course of a campaign as it gets more mature? What's the difference? Great
question, Ray. And so certainly, if the internet is supposed to be responsible for contributing, 10% of that $1 million growth goal or $100,000, then we certainly want to see $100,000 in sales that are directly or indirectly related to your internet marketing efforts. And so that's an example of a macro objective. And so as you're going throughout the quarters, leading up to the end of the year, you want to see some sales that are showing up in your pipeline that are directly related or indirectly related from your internet marketing effort. Now, if you're starting out and you've never really invested heavily in internet marketing before, you are going to have to go through some stages of maturity, because when you first start out, it's kind of like priming a pump. You know, you've got to really put in some energy without a lot of results until the water starts flowing. But once the water starts flowing out of that pump, it's going to be pretty consistent. And so during those early days, the first 3 to 6 months, you're going to be looking at other things that aren't necessarily sales. They're going to start out with potential search engine rankings, people that are opting in for something, maybe registering to attend a webinar or downloading a white paper or something on your website. Those would be early key performance indicators that you'll be able to back into. Ultimately, this many visitors to my site is going to equal this many opt-ins or registrations for a webinar, and out of those I'm going to be able to convert this many of those folks ultimately into opportunities, and from having these qualified opportunities, my sales team should be able to convert X percentage of those into new business. And so just kind of working backwards from there, as you're in those early 3 to 6 months, you want to see that process and each stage of that process really beginning to get filled up.
So in your book, your book Social Rules, in chapter 17, you have a chapter all about measurement. And going back again about winning and maturity of a campaign, you start out with a comparative analysis of benchmarking against your industry and competitors. You've got 4 things you talk about. I believe it's frequency, broadcasting, interest, and outreach. Can you tie those together on how that changes over like the 12-month campaign? I don't. Maybe you could just explain in general the whole idea of benchmarking before you start a campaign.
Absolutely, and it's such a critical thing. In fact, whenever we work with, as you know, Ray, a new client, that's the first thing we do. We spend the first 4 to 6 weeks really helping them develop their strategy, and a key part of developing their strategy is to understand what those macro objectives are all the way down to the key performance indicators, and it does always begin with a comparative analysis. And the good news is, if you've been in business any time at all, then you've been doing something to generate new customers. And so the first thing that we want to do is go look at the time and money that you've invested in the past and the output that produced. And when I talk about time and money, I'm specifically talking about time and money that you've invested in marketing. So maybe you've never done internet marketing before, but you've done trade shows before, or you've advertised in magazines before. That advertising spend and divide it by the number of customers that you've generated in the past or the number of leads that you've generated in the past, and then we can actually come up with what is your cost per acquisition from a legacy perspective. So when we look back in time, what does it cost you to generate a customer? And so that's really important, because then we can look forward and take a look at the dollars that we're going to need to spend to invest in internet marketing, and simply divide that investment in internet marketing by your cost per acquisition, your comparative cost per acquisition, and that's going to tell us, bare minimum, we need to produce the same output or better. So it creates that new benchmark that we're looking for. And so when we talk about comparative analysis, that's one component of it. Another thing that we have to look at, Ray, is we have to do what we call a top-down analysis, which is looking at where you're trying to go as a business. And that is, I want to grow my business by 10% over the next 12 months, which equates to $1 million in new sales, percent of that, or $100,000 in new business. Well, the down analysis is going to then give us the ability to go out and look at, can we achieve that objective? Is $100,000 in new business even viable with the web? And so we go out and look at, how many searches are out there for things and products and services that you might provide. And these are things that you need to do on your own as well, because when you find out that there is the support, that there's enough buyers out there that are looking for what you do online, and you can see the acquisition that is either equal to or better than what you've looked at in the past, then you're going to be in a really good position to win online.
So in your book, again, you talk about stages of measurement, and again, it's Social Rules, and it's chapter 17. and you talk about three distinct phases: crawling, walking, and running. So, can you give us some examples of micro and macro conversions in the crawling stage, and then if you can remember the walking and the running stages, and exactly like crawling, walking, and running. As a business owner, you know, I want to know, when am I going to start asking me this? You know, they expect results in 2 to 3 months, and I've told them that this is a long haul. This is a marathon versus a sprint. What are your thoughts on this?
So yeah, let me just walk you through the three stages: crawling, walking, and every business is going to go through those three stages. Especially if you're launching an internet marketing campaign for the first time. Those stages are going to vary based on the kind of business that you are in, and you know, the higher the consideration purchase your products or services might be, the longer these stages might be, and the more products that you have, maybe the shorter these stages might be. But the crawling stage is typically around the first 3 months of engaging in internet marketing, and so what you're wanting to measure in those stages are more activity-based things. And so, are you active in social media? Your content marketing goals, maybe you set a goal of writing a blog every single week. Are you actually doing that? If you're, you know, because you're trying to form new habits within your organization. So it's very activity-based in the first quarter. Or those first 3 months in the crawling phase, because you're trying to make sure that your workflow is working. The people that are supposed to be writing the blogs, those subject matter experts within your organization, are they getting them to you on time? Are you promoting them effectively on time? Are you working the plan the way that you're working the plan? Those are all key things that you want to measure in that crawling stage. And quite frankly, at the end of the first 90 days, if you're doing that, if you're consistently doing the things that are in your plan, that's worth celebrating. Moving on from the crawling stage to the walking stage, though, now we want to start holding some things accountable. We want to start seeing traffic to our website grow from social media, from search, even our direct traffic growing over time. We also want to start seeing our communities get bigger. Do we have more people liking us previous month? Do we have more people following us on Twitter, following us on LinkedIn, as it relates to, again, our plan? That's why the plan is so important, Ray, because you're going to have things happen. Activity is going to occur when you start engaging in internet marketing, and without having these goals for each of the stages that you can then overlay your results on top of, you're not going to know if you're winning or not. And then, so we want to start seeing in that walking stage, you know, are we starting to grow things? And then once we get out of the walking stage, which again is about 3 months, now we move into that running stage, and this is where you really need to start holding your team accountable for generating those leads and generating those sales that are going to help you achieve your objective. And so earlier I talked about how to take your cost per acquisition by looking back at how you spent your marketing dollars and coming up with that cost per acquisition, and then taking your future investment and dividing it by that acquisition number to determine how many leads or sales you need to generate. This is when you need to start looking at that. But one key thing about measuring leads or sales is look at it quarter over quarter. Don't get so myopic that if you didn't generate the right number of leads or sales this week, that the whole world is on fire. What we found is things just tend to settle out when you look at things quarterly versus super myopically.
I think I'd like to go back to a point you made, and the subject of this podcast is putting your marketing on a quota. But you talk in the book, and we talk about this at length, and I know you're a very disciplined person. In the first 3 months, you talk about building those good habits and discipline. Can you expound upon that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely, Ray. So every sustainable endeavor that you're going to have as a business is going to come from a process. The way that you manufacture or produce the goods or services that you provide have a way that you generate new customers should also have a process behind them. And so you're not going to win online by throwing spaghetti against the wall. And what you've got to set those macro goals in place, break them down into key performance indicators of where you are. So if you're starting out for the first time, you're going to go through those crawling, walking, running stages. marketing for a while, maybe you could skip the crawling stage. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be new behaviors that have to be learned. The world of the internet is constantly evolving, and we do know that as of 2014 and moving into 2015, having a steady flow of new content, for example, is really critical to your success. If you want to rank well in Google, if you want to have some, then you better be producing some content on a regular basis. And so that's a habit that you're going to have to learn. And that's a process that's probably going to take more than just you and your company. You're going to have somebody help you come up with the topics. You're going to have somebody write the content. Then you're going to have somebody actually go out and promote that content in social media. So if you're going to write a blog a week, somebody's got to write that blog, put it in your website, inside your blog, if you will, and then somebody's got to go put it on Facebook and put it on LinkedIn or wherever you're going to publish it. And those are all new habits. And so those are things that you're going to want to make sure and monitor on a regular basis, because that's where when the fundamentals fall down or break down, that's when everything falls apart. When you think about football teams, I'm a big football fan. The Cowboys are doing so well this year. What makes a good team? It's the team that can really follow the fundamentals and do the same consistent things over and over again. So hopefully that answers your question, Ray.
It did, but I could do without the editorial comment about the Cowboys. But walking phase, we both have had this discussion about shifting from building community to building engagement. So is that akin to taking it so in the beginning you're trying to get people to like your page, you're trying to get traffic to that website. I think we've discussed this about the upside down hockey stick. But there's that tremendous. Do we stop measuring that at that phase and start focusing more on engagement? What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, that's a good point. So certainly you want to grow your likes and you want to grow your followers and you want to grow your connections for many reasons. One, at the end of the day, people do business with people, and if all we're doing is publishing content and nobody's wanting to engage with it, we're not going to ultimately achieve our macro objective of growing our business by a certain percentage over a period of time. And so that is a very early indicator, and traffic flowing to our website in that crawling stage. But at the end of the day, engagement is the next kind of level up that we want to start measuring, because engagement tells us a couple of things. One, it tells us if we're hitting our right audience with the right message. And so when we're talking about engagement, here's what we're really meaning, Ray, is we're talking about people liking our content, sharing our content, commenting rather. That's an example of engagement. And so we want to see that happening, because it shows us that we're meeting our audience with the right message. But on top of that, we are dealing with a world where all media is social media now, and most of our customers are going to come in contact with our content in social sites like LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. And so because it is a social media world, every time we can get a customer or a potential customer to share our content or like it or whatever or comment on it, it's not just us having that dialogue, it's us and all of our followers seeing that, and this person and all their engagement is really important for growing our social media footprint over time.
So when I put my marketing on a quota, let me take a step back. When we build content strategies and marketing campaigns, I always tell the client that the document we produce is a living, breathing document, and it's subject to change all the time. What are your thoughts on that?
There is no perfect plan. In fact, one of the things that I tell clients all the time, and they are a little shocked when I say it, is, the best internet marketing business plan that we can put together for you right now is just going to be an educated guess. We're going to go do all the research that we can. We're going to talk to your key leaders. We're going to talk to your customers. We're going to take what we know about the web and what you know about your industry and come up with a plan. And that plan is going to be an educated guess that we believe if we do these things, then we're going to get these outcomes. But that's why you need the macro and the micro, Ray, because when you have the micro key performance indicators, then you can actually begin to execute your plan and then monitor what happens. And this is what we call management by exception, because rather than running and chasing your tail all the time, let's go execute our plan and then throw some people at it and see what they do in our social environment, on our website, and then go find the places where maybe key performance indicators not firing the way that we thought, because then we can then go focus our energy and our time asking ourselves the questions: why didn't it work there? What's wrong with our call to action on that page? Why aren't we getting the visitors that we want to that page? And it's by focusing and managing by exception, and as you said, it's a living, breathing document, and coming up with new objectives, key performance indicators along the way that are going to cause your business to spiral in the right direction.
When I put my marketing campaign, my marketing team, when I put my marketing period on a quota, let's just tie this all together. So we're talking about the spend. We're also talking about the metrics that are going to get us to, that are measuring the metrics, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Paul, the metrics that are defining our KPIs, and the KPIs are how close we are not getting to our objectives. Is that a fair summation of putting your marketing on a quota? What else could you add to that?
Let me just try to tie it all together. You're a business, you want to grow your business, we all do, right? We all want our businesses to grow. And so we need to be specific about where we're trying to go as a business over the next X period of time, call it a year. And our objective is going to show us whether or not we're heading whether or not we're winning. The big term that Ray and I use, are we winning? And then the key performance indicators along the way, which working backwards can be sales, can be leads, but ultimately they're also going to be opt-ins, downloads, traffic, followers. Those are all things that are going to show us, are we moving in the right direction? So going all the way back to that first analogy that we used about trying to get from Portland, Oregon to New York City, are we in Texas? Are we in Canada? Are we going towards Hawaii? I mean, those are all things that are the key performance indicators are going to tell us whether or not we're heading in the right direction, so that we can. Another great analogy I like to use, Ray, is the whole torpedo analogy. A lot of people may not know this, but a torpedo is actually never on course. The captain has an objective. He wants to sink a ship from his submarine. That's the objective. But inside the torpedo, as soon as it goes out the door, it's got a servo on it, and all it does is correct course. So it knows when it's gone too far left, and then that servo says you need to go right, and so it starts moving to the right until the servo says you've gone too far right, and then it starts working its way to the left, and it's that back and forth torpedo, a deadly accurate weapon to actually hit its objective. And that's exactly what a plan, key performance indicators, and objectives are going to do for your business.
Well, thanks for summing everything up, Paul, and I want to thank our audience for joining us. We hope you'll come back next week. We're going to talk about marketing metrics that matter, and we're going to talk about my favorite, and I say that with parentheses because this is one that has vexed me for years, and that's CPA, cost per acquisition. We're going to talk about that in depth and why it's important. So on behalf of the Winning Online Podcast and Paul and Ray, just want to say thank you for your time, and we hope you join us next week.